Morning, Pendile.
Morning, Prof. Morning, Hannah. How are you?
How are you?
I'm okay,
Fine,
Prof.
thanks.
Good.
Morning, Kindly.
Hi, Hannah. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Nah, no complaints. Yeah.
We're just waiting if there's any students that's still coming, and then I'll start. Morning, student and colleagues. I'd just like to remind you that this lesson is being recorded. I'll be doing lesson 5. We're nearing the end. We're almost done with the syllabus. Lesson 6 will be done by Dr. Dunga, and I would like to remind you to please go and take a look at the announcements for any assessments or discussion forums that need to be done. So let me start by sharing my slides. Let me just put it on slideshow. You'll see that this week we are busy with lesson 5, then chapter 9, mixed methods research. By the end of this chapter, you should be able to explain the concept of mixed methods approach, identify the central premise of mixed methods, elucidate the steps taken by a mixed method researcher, and explain the circumstances in which mixed methods can be used. So important terms to take note of is concurrent, explanatory, exploratory, qualitative, quantitative, and sequential. Just excuse me quickly. Friends. Sorry about that. I just wanted to get the time so that I can see what's the time to stick to our 30 minutes plan. So you'll see that there's lots of writers that are important in terms of the development of mixed methods research. For example, from 1959, Campbell and Fisker introduced the use of multiple quantitative methods. Sieber 1973 combined surveys and interviews. So he started with mixed methods. Chick 1979 discussed the triangulation of qualitative and quantitative data. Triangulation, will come to the explanation of that, is a type of mixed methods. Cook and Reichhardt 1979 presented 10 ways to combine quantitative and qualitative data. So the paradigm debate period. For example, Rossman and Wilson, 1985, discussed combining methods. Bryman, 1988, reviewed the debate and established connections within the two traditions. Reichhardt and Rallis, 1994, discussed the paradigm debate and reconciled two traditions. Green and Caroselli, 1997, suggested that we move past the paradigm debate. Procedural development period, Green, Caroselli, and Gray. So just take note of all these guys that started with types of mixed methods. Rossman and Wilson, Bryman, Reichhardt and Rallis again, Green and Caroselli, all of those writers in terms of the development of mixed methods. Green, Caroselli, and Gray, Brewer and Hunter, Morse. Creswell is quite an important one to take note. He identified 3 types of mixed methods design. And I also liked using his material. For example, writing this chapter because me and a previous PhD graduate wrote this chapter in the textbook. And we used Creswell steps for mixed methods in this chapter. Morgan, 1998, Newman and Benz, Tashakori and Tedley, Bamberger, all involved in mixed methods. Tashakori and Teddle, another one, also looked at mixed methods. Creswell again compared quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods approaches in the process of research. And then you'll see Prof. Onwubesi is also a very important writer in terms of mixed methods research. Please take note of him also. So the uses of mixed methods. We'll still look at the uses as we proceed with the definition and also examples of mixed methods as we proceed through this chapter. We'll also look at the advantages and challenges with mixed methods approach. Obviously, there's a lot of advantages. You look at quantitative and qualitative elements, but it could also be complicated. Looking, for example, doing not only just surveys, but also interviews. Let me just put this sound off. So yes, designing a mixed method study, you have to look at preliminary considerations. Is it ideal, for example, to have a survey and also interviews? Create the title. In the title, you need to use mixed method study. Pose a general question about this research. List the types of data collection you will use. For example, with surveys, you're going to collect the answers to the questionnaire. With interviews, you're going to do a thematic analysis as I've shown you with the qualitative approach. List your approach to data analysis. Determine your worldview. Now, your worldview could be, for example, pragmatic. Pragmatic, you look at the consequences of actions, problem-centered, pluralistic. In other words, you're looking at the real world practice concerned. This is normally the worldviews that was used by Creswell also in his research. So here we come now to the research design or method. The first one is the parsimonious design. And the first one that we're looking there is concurrent mixed methods design. So we're using quantitative and qualitative at the same time. That is the so-called triangulation design, also called triangulation. And we'll still come back to this. But then you also get the embedded design where you've got quantitative pre-test data and results. Then you've got an intervention, the qualitative approach, and the quantitative is afterwards, the post-test. And from this, you get the interpretation, but I'll come back to this still. Then you get sequential, not concurrent at the same time. Here you get sequential designs. For example, the explanatory one, this is where your quantitative method is the distinctive design. So here the data and results of the quantitative method is followed up by qualitative data and result. And from there you get your interpretation. But with your exploratory design, it's rather the qualitative methods that's standing out. First, you get the data and results from that. It builds to the quantitative data and results, and from there you get the interpretation. And then the last one is the sequential embedded design. We've looked at this one. It's also like the triangulation. I'll come to the triangulation still. So explanatory sequential mixed methods is the quantitative dominates or precedes the qualitative element. With the exploratory sequential mixed method is the opposite of explanatory in that the qualitative dominates precedes the quantitative. Qualitative methods help to gather in-depth data to understand a new phenomenon or hypothesis. And this is tested with quantitative methods. I just want to mention that the explanatory one was used by my PhD graduate, Dr. Shigome, that also helped me to write chapter 9. She used a mixed method study for her PhD. What she did was she looked at tax tendencies in terms of SADC countries, and she used the quantitative methods that dominated or preceded the qualitative element, and afterwards she looked at a narrative for legislation in SADC. So this qualitative element then followed the quantitative study that she did for mixed methods. And then, as I said, the embedded, concurrent or convergent parallel mixed methods, neither the quantitative nor the qualitative dominates precedes the others. Data collection and processing are taking place concurrently, and this is similar to the triangulation. Let's look at writing a purpose statement, and you can go and look at the example on page 234. Let's look at triangulation. The mixed method study will address the overall content aim of the study. You have to now put in there. A triangulation mixed methods design will be used, and it is a type of design in which different but complementary data will be collected on the same topic. In this study, first of all, the quantitative instruments will be used. You have to mention which instruments, for example, survey, will be used to test the theory that predicts that, for example, the independent variables will influence positively or negatively the dependent variables or outcomes. For example, taxation is the independent variable and economic growth is the dependent variable. So taxation having an influence positive or negatively on economic growth for so many participants at whichever research site you've chosen. Concurrent with this data collection is the qualitative, the type of qualitative data such as interviews that will be explored. The central phenomena, you must say what central phenomena will be explored for so many participants, let's say 30 participants at a specific site. The reason for collecting both quantitative and qualitative data are to bring together the strengths of both forms of research to, for example, compare results, validate results. So if you get a certain influence, let's say positive influence of tax on economic growth, you want to go and validate that result through interviews or corroborate the result.
Sorry, Prof. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry to interject here. You're echoing from my side, so I don't know whether it's just.
Let me just go out.
You're kind of echoing. So I don't know if it's just me.
If I can just get out.
I don't know if Abigail, if you're able to hear.
Yes,
Students, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, the sound is fine. The sound is fine on my side.
Dr. Dunga, maybe you should try go out and come back in again. I see you've come in twice. So maybe you should just close one. Can you do that? Can you hear me now?
From my side, you're still echoing. So let me try and just log out and then maybe join in again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I see you've logged in twice. Pendile, will you just let her in when she gets back in?
Okay, I'll do that, Prof.
Okay. Dr. Dunga, can you hear us? Okay, let me continue. We're busy with triangulation and then writing the research questions. First, write the qualitative central question. So the qualitative, is it going to be either quantitative or qualitative? Whether you're doing explanatory mixed methods, maybe the quantitative is going to dominate, or exploratory, where the qualitative central question is going to dominate. There are three ways in which to write the question. Methodologically focused, you're going to say what method you're going to use. Are you going to use surveys, interviews, or it's content focused, or it's a hybrid of quantitative and qualitative elements in which you're going to write the research questions with. So you can go and take a look at the advanced mixed methods, which I'm not really going to focus on. Just go through those. Your focus needs to be on explanatory method, exploratory, or then triangulation. So it could be, depending on the method that you use, explanatory or exploratory, Phase 1 could be quantitative analysis, phase 2 qualitative analysis, or it could be first the qualitative analysis and then second the quantitative analysis. Let me just point out the sources that I've used for the chapter, and also the chapter is coming from Mishi and Maritza, the textbook, Research Methods for Economics that we use for ECS 3711. And then, as I said, Dr. Shigome helped me writing chapter 9 in the textbook, and her PhD study was a mixed methods analysis of tax capacity and tax effort in the Southern African Development Community, SADC. And as I said, we specifically used Creswell and Plano-Clark designing and conducting mixed methods research. And that's it for today. Let me just come back to my screen. Dr. Dunga, are you back? Okay. Okay. Thank you, students. Just take note. The quiz for assessment 3 is open, and also assessment 4 is open. Take note of that. We will answer your emails during the week, and we will also reply to only 10 of those discussions that you're busy with. I think this week it is discussion forum 6 that also need to be completed. So please make sure that all those assessments also come in. And that's it from my side. Thank you. Lesson 6 will be delivered by Dr. Dunga. Next time that I see you again, I think lesson 6 have also been scheduled. Thank you for that. I'm going to stop the recording.